Well, it's time for a Saturday chat here on the afternoon drive. There is a rule in internet decorum. I remember I've been involved in the internet since things began in chat rooms and forums. Before there was the Facebook craze and all the other social media platforms. And one of the very first rules that you had to learn when you engaged in internet communication, internet forums, chat rooms, etc. Don't feed the trolls. Don't feed the trolls. Those anonymous individuals that hide behind interesting names and monikers that get involved in a conversation to which they weren't invited in and decide to give their 2 cents, offer their opinion, and you don't know who they are, you don't know who you're engaging with, and all of a sudden now you begin to interact with this person. There's a biblical principle here that when you start to talk to a fool, you begin yourself to look like one. Governor DeSantis, let me give you a piece of advice about how to handle Gavin Newsom. Don't. He's a troll. Don't feed the trolls. Don't feed the trolls. I understand. He said something completely asinine, which that's what asses do. That's the part of their anatomy from which they speak. So I know the other day Gavin Newsom makes this claim and sends a letter to the Department of Justice demanding that Governors Abbott and DeSantis be investigated for kidnapping. Well, first of all, let's get a couple things straight here, Gav. These are non-American citizens. You do get that, right? They're here illegally. They circumvented the actual immigration process, and they're here illegally. So they really do not have the same rights. But that's completely irrelevant. They're not being kidnapped. They're being asked, do you want to go? I mean, come on. Can you imagine being from a place like Venezuela and you're told, hey, how would you like to go hang out in one of the richest, wealthiest zip codes in America, where all the rich elite have declared themselves to be supporters of sanctuary cities and open borders? These people are gazillionaires. And you're like, really? We can go live there? We can maybe even share a house with them? Yeah, let's go. And all of a sudden, when they touch down in Martha's Vineyard, the people went bat crap crazy. I saw a great meme the other day. Homer Simpson standing in front of some bushes, holding up that sign that I've seen, Tom Hanks and a bunch of other Holly weirdos wear on their T-shirt. Love is love, and whether it's gay, all the typical woke bullhawk. And then all of a sudden, the illegal migrants arrive in Martha's Vineyard, and we see Homer Simpson back into the bushes, and he comes out with one of those signs that has the camera on it. This property is under video surveillance, no trespassing. If caught, you will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Is that not liberal hypocrisy on display, on parade for all to see? It is a master political stroke of genius that Governors Abbott and DeSantis have done in shipping these people out. I'd like to see Arizona and a few other places do the exact same thing. I mean, these people arrive in places that the Biden administration drops them off in, that those municipalities are given no warning. I told you the other day, Jacksonville, Florida. Planes arrive there in the middle of the night, courtesy of the U.S. government, i.e., the Biden administration. Hundreds of people disembark, and they're now just there, wandering around the airport. They're just there. And the city of Jacksonville has had to figure out what to do with these people, where to house them. 50 people were dropped off in Martha's Vineyard. 50. And the libloons lost their crap over it. Do you know that they've herded all those people up and sent them to a military base? A military base. Is that like a concentration camp? Oh, really? All right. A little over the top hyperbole, I understand. But wait, I thought these people embraced all of this until it's in their own backyard, which is what has made this a political stroke of genius. I can't wait till they start dropping them off on Nancy Botox Pelosi's front lawn. And Mad Maxine Waters, give her a few too. And I've heard Chuck E. Cheese Schumer has installed bunk beds in his mansion. He's getting himself migrant ready. So you know what? Let these people, and the thing that's so genius about it is most of America, even if they embrace the idea of open our borders, they like this idea of, well, yeah, let's all share. It's the politicians and it's the political elite and it's the wealthy people that really don't want this in their neighborhood. And by the way, I'm working on a monologue regarding those of us as conservatives. We need to rethink our whole love affair with corporations. See, for a long time, we have carried their water with the argument we need the corporations because the corporations are what provide us with employment. But you stop and think about how many of these corporations actually represent us and our views and our values. How many of them are actually an enemy of what we stand for? They're woke. They embrace this culture breakdown. They promote it, and they donate to every libloon political cause out there, as well as their donations to Democrats go about 8-1 in their favor versus conservatives. So why are we all so big pro-corporation? By the way, we saw what happened during the lockdowns and the stay-at-home and the 2 weeks to flatten the curve. The corporate box stores killed mom and pop business. And remember, the more these corporations swallow everything up, it's so much more easy for the government to control what we buy, how much we buy, where we buy it, right down to what we eat and how much we eat and when we can get it. You know, there's got to be a bunch of libloons right now losing their crap because a few years ago they really got into the whole organic farmers markets and all of that. You know, we're just going to get back to nature. It's going to be wonderful. Now, all of a sudden, they're told they can't because the corporations are buying up the farms and they want us to eat all that processed stuff. And, you know, you need to look into the armed raids happening on Amish farmers in Pennsylvania. It's unbelievable. But this is where we're headed. So this whole idea that we as conservatives have been defending corporations. Corporations are in bed with the government. This is not about capitalism. This is about fascism. This is about businesses that still may be technically privately owned, but they are in bed with the government. It's no longer left versus right. It's right versus wrong. It's not about conservative versus liberal, Democrat versus Republican. It's about them versus us. You need to understand we are not in a culture war. We are in a class war. And it doesn't matter whether you're a Democrat or Republican, liberal or a conservative. If you ain't part of the right class, it don't matter. So we need to rethink this whole love affair with corporations. That'll be coming in a monologue on Monday. But let's get back to the whole governors thing. It is a stroke of genius, I'm sorry. Governors Abbott and Newsom sending the migrants elsewhere. Again, they're supposed to absorb all of this. They're dealing with hundreds of thousands of migrants coming in a day, especially Texas. Then the Biden administration was by plane in the middle of the night dropping them off in places like Jacksonville. Okay. So what DeSantis says, let's ship them north. When Gavin Newsom sent out his letter telling the DOJ, you need to look into kidnapping, what DeSantis should have done was nothing. Making his little comment about, you know, Gavin Newsom's hair gel is obviously affecting his brain mentality. I'm like, you fed the troll. And this is one of the things that sometimes used to get me upset with Donald Trump. And everybody knows where I stand on President Donald Trump. But there were times Donald Trump would sometimes start fights with individuals. It wasn't that I didn't laugh and didn't like what it was he said. I loved it. But I knew exactly what was going to happen. Okay, it's another distraction. It's another thing the media is going to beat down on him over. And it's just, it takes away from what needs to be done. And then he's going to get caught up in this back and forth, the fights he had with Pelosi, just this constant. There was one thing I wish President Trump would have learned, even from some of the so-called rhinos, which none of us can stand, that they have no core, no conviction, no backbone. But they do know how to schmuck and schmooze. And it would have been nice if once in a while President Trump had invoked that a little bit. But nonetheless, President Trump is who he is. The point is, it gave the media plenty of fodder to keep hitting him. And Mr. DeSantis, I warned you. You're really not the guy yet. I am so for what you do in Florida. But on the national level, you are able to do what you do in Florida because you are surrounded by conservatives. You are surrounded by like-minded people. That won't happen in Washington, D.C. You'll be surrounded by the swamp. And my fear is you'll campaign as a Trump and govern as a Mitt Romney. I'm sorry. I'm putting it out there, Governor. And even if you're not, by feeding the trolls, you are now giving the media, aha! They're already going to try to go after you over, Mickey Mouse and what you've done to Disney World, which again, those of us who are from Florida and understand what goes on there, awesome. Disney World has been able to operate as almost like their own independent state within a state. They didn't have to follow any of the rules. They didn't have to follow any of the zoning. They didn't have to follow any of the green laws out there. You understand that Disney World could not be built today? It was swampland. Now, I wouldn't care if they built a Disney World today in swampland, but the environmental wet jobs would come out of the woodwork, these wingnuts who have nothing better to do than to decide, there's a breed of mosquito that lives in that swamp that only exists here. We can't take their habitat away from them. Yes, because it's so important we have that mosquito alive. So Disney World could not be built today. By the way, Cape Kennedy, Cape Canaveral, the whole home base for NASA, that couldn't be built today either. I've toured that many times, lived about 30 minutes from there. And one weekend a year, you could get in for free if you brought canned goods. There's a food drive for the poor. So my family and I, we'd gather up some canned goods and we'd spend the day at NASA. And it really is incredible. And I'll tell you, the first time I watched a shuttle launch at midnight and it lit up the sky like it was 12 noon, I stood there and I cried. I literally cried. I said, yes, the United States of America, the USA, we did that. It's awesome. It's incredible. President Kennedy with his vision for the space program. You understand the Democrat Party today would not be for that on any level. Look, you got Joe Biden and Barack Obama out there. They celebrate when we build a really fast train. Ooh, the technology of the 19th century returns. No money for NASA, no money for that. But there's money to build really fast trains, and it costs gazillions of dollars to basically lay, 20 miles of track. You get that Biden's got us on a crash course to be a third world toilet? People in Memphis, Tennessee. Tennessee is a red state, deep red state, except Memphis. For some reason, the former home of Elvis Presley, who himself was a conservative, is deep blue. And I was reading an article that they were talking to some people in Memphis doing a survey outside a supermarket. And everybody agreed that the price of gas is out of control. The trying to find things in the grocery store, and then the prices you're paying, and you're getting so much less for your money. And they all agree it's awful. This economy stinks. But it went 9-1 in Biden's favor. He can't help it. He's doing the best he can with the hand he was dealt. And I'm thinking, do you people not realize that all of this is the direct result of his decisions and policies? The economy was in rebound mode when the shutdowns across the national level were finally beginning to lift. Trump was still in office, and the economy was on its way to roaring back, and how it really would have rocked and rolled had he been able to stay in office. And the little bit of life we saw coming back, Biden, by executive order, within the first 48 hours, he was El Presidente. It all went bye-bye. Bye-bye. So when Gavin Newsom says what he says, DeSantis should have stayed out of it. You've allowed the media now to pounce, because they're all going to be into this thing now, because Gavin Newsom then responded to you, and he's challenging you to a debate. And that's all everybody's going to talk about now. Oh, I think DeSantis ought to debate him. The people who are for DeSantis ought to debate him. And it's going to be a no-win debate. It's going to be an absolutely no-win debate. Because it'll be cooked and set up, and it will be designed to make you look bad. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. And you can handle, this is where you, personally, if I were you, now that you've kind of walked in this, I'd pick the phone up and I'd call Donald Trump, say, okay, give me my drop mic moment with Newsom so I can get on with what I need to be doing. And you just say something to him like, listen, I am not going to debate a guy who doesn't even know what the issues are. Hey, Governor, you know how many of your family members left your state and now live in my state? Debate over. Boom. Done. Move on. Don't feed the trolls.